Hello everyone, Sloggy here. It's been about 2.5 months or so since I completed my northbound AT through hike, and I've been working on a bunch of videos in the background. If you're following my channel at all, you've seen some of the hikes I've done locally that I've put up as videos, but like I said, some that I've been working on really to close out my through hike are 3 of them, one of which you'll see here tonight, and that's a full gear review of the things I use and really the things that I was most happy about and what got me through the whole trail. Another video, which I think is going to be pretty cool, a video series of interviews individually that I'm going to do with a bunch of folks I met along the way, other through hikers that I befriended. So if you followed along and you remember any trail names like Pilgrim or Solar or Huckleberry, it'll be kind of cool. You can see what they're up to now. So I'll be getting those out in the next few weeks. And then the third one I'm going to be working on is kind of a cost calculations and an accounting of my trip. Cost, obviously self-explanatory. I'm going to do a breakdown of how much approximately the trip cost me, where I spent my money, break it down in a pie chart, if you will. And so you can see where a lot of the costs were. And for aspiring through hikers, if you're planning a trip, you can just get an idea of what I spent. Obviously, I'm just one person, but it'll help you plan, I think. And then an accounting and some calculations. How many pairs of shoes did I go through? How many days did it take me? How many nights did I sleep in a tent? Just some things like that. So without further ado, we'll get this video rolling and look at some of the gear that I used for my through hike this year. Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about is probably the most important piece of equipment that you're going to use on the trail, and it's how you carry everything. That's your backpack. And what I used was a Hyperlight Mountain Gear Wind Rider 55. The name of it is a little self-explanatory. It has 55 liters of carrying capacity. It's super light. What I really like about it the most probably is that it's waterproof, so that you don't have to take a pack cover with you if you're hiking along and all of a sudden it starts raining. You don't have to stop, take off your pack, put on a pack cover. You can just keep going right through. And believe me, I hiked through some downpours and my stuff didn't get wet whatsoever. I also used the pods, the waterproof pods that you can insert it as well. Those fit right to the inside shape of the bag, and those are awesome as well. A great accessory. 2 more other awesome accessories with this bag that I used were the shoulder strap, which you can put your phone in. It's waterproof, it's easy access. You could put, I put like some sunscreen and lip balm in the front there. There's even another inside little slot where you could put a credit card or a little bit of cash if you wanted as well. So that was really awesome. I always had that right on my strap. Quick access to get my phone if I had to take a picture. And then also the bottle holder here. I'm not real good about drinking when I hike or backpack, and having that right easy access, what I did is I used a 20-ounce smart water bottle. Those seem to fit well. You could use anything. I think once or twice I had like a soda in there, like a 20-ounce bottle of Diet Pepsi or something. But yeah, so that fit really good. It has a lot of space. Again, it rolls up just like a wet bag, so you can roll it up. And so it changes how tall the pack is, so you can put very little in it if you want and roll it all the way down. I used it actually for a day pack a couple of times since I've been home, and I used it as a day pack on my summit day as well. It's got a couple of really good hip belt pockets right here. There's one on each side. You can fit a bunch of stuff in there. In the morning, I would always put my snacks in this one, and then some of my water, flavorings and things like that over in this side, and maybe snacks overflow. Nice mesh in the back. I kept my water shoes in there and my tent poles usually, and the whole thing, even with the shoulder strap and the bottle carrier right here, is just 2 pounds 7 ounces. So really, really light. You're really, for a 55 liter bag that's waterproof, it's going to be really tough to beat that at that weight as well. And price wise, anything of this kind of quality, you're probably not going to be able to spend a lot less than what we do on a hyperlight bag. I think these are around $350 or so right now, but that's my bag. It was awesome. It's probably got about 3,500 miles on it right now, and it's going to be my bag for a long time. Next up, we'll look at the tent I used, and the tent I used was the Big Agnes Copper Spur UL2 tent. I absolutely love this tent. I'd give it 5 out of 5. It was very durable. I did get a couple of tears in it, but they were both my fault, not the tent's, and it didn't really affect my journey. A couple of Band-Aids fixed that. It is super light, not as light as probably the pole tents and things like those. So I might have been able to shave a pound, but it's a 2-man tent, first of all, and I don't really think it was a 2-man tent, honestly. I'm almost 6'3", and I was over 200 pounds when I started the trail. So probably a 1.5-man tent, in all honesty, or as I like to say on the trail, 2 Cub Scouts could fit in it. But it comes pretty compact, poles and stakes. I think it came with either 6 or 8 stakes, but I only tended to use 2. Honestly, not really for weight, but just for ease of setting up. I'd throw a couple just in the fly where you got in and out. And then I used my 2 hiking poles on the ends. But there were a few nights where, unless it was raining or I thought it might rain or the wind was going to blow hard, I didn't even bother putting in any stakes. I just used my tent poles. The freestanding part is what I found very, very valuable. A few places, especially comes to mind in the Northeast, once you get up into New Hampshire, they use a lot of wooden platforms. And some people who, it took a lot of ingenuity to set up the pole tents on those wooden platforms. You had to stick in your stakes in between the boards and things like that. And it took a lot more time to set up, which is fine unless it's raining and you're cold. This Big Agnes Copper Spur UL2, I could set this thing up in like 4 minutes. And I could set it up anywhere. There were many times when I'd come to a road crossing and just set up camp there. I didn't need the ground to even stick stakes in or poles, so I found that very, very valuable. Economically, I got this off of eBay actually for like just over $300. Again, if you have time and you know exactly what you want, just keep an eye out for things like, this is another thing I picked up. I got this right off the Big Agnes site. This is to protect the bottom of your tent. It's a ground sheet. A lot of people use Tyvek on the trail, and that works well. It's super light and inexpensive. This one was the one that specifically came with it, and I had signed up for an email from the Big Agnes site for whenever they had sales. I know it's a pain in the butt to sign up on these sites because they're always sending you emails on sales and things, but it's a good way to get deals. I ended up getting this for 70% off, which I think ended up being like $26 or something like that. But it's the one that goes with this. It fits fine. It was awesome. I think the worst thing that happened to it the whole trip was I get a little bit of pitch on it off some trees or something, but it worked great. So if you do have the time, I would recommend signing up for some of those websites to get the deals when they go on sale. That's my tent. It was great, 5 out of 5. Oh, and last but not least, the weight. It weighed in at 3 pounds, 6 ounces with everything. Ground sheet, poles, 2 stakes, and then the tent, obviously. So I might have been able to save a pound or so if I went with a pole tent, but I really like the freestanding aspect, and I didn't think 3 pounds, 6 ounces was too bad for all this stuff. Next up, we'll take a look at my bag. Also a Big Agnes product is the Farrington Primaloft bag. It is a very lightweight bag. It comes in at 18 ounces. It is a 50-degree bag, and I know what you're thinking, that may be not warm enough. It really depends what time of year you're starting. I started on April 9th, and honestly, I didn't pick this bag up until Daleville, Virginia, about a third of the way in. I did have a 30-degree rated bag. Other than a couple of nights in the Smokies, I think this would have been fine. On some chilly nights, obviously, you're going to probably just put on another layer of clothes that you're bringing in your bag anyway. But I love the bag. It's very economical, super light, super compact, and I really, really like it. I'll be keeping it to do some hikes that I'm going to do in the spring and summer next year. So I'll get a couple 100 miles on it next year, and I will not be changing it out. To help with the temperature, I bought a Sea to Summit sleeping bag liner. So that's a rectangular bag, and this is also obviously a rectangular silk liner. They say that it can give you an extra 3 to 5 degrees of warmth. I definitely believe it. Also, the surprising thing where this came in really handy for me, additionally, the keeping me warm, was in the mid-Atlantic when we had a lot of those hot days this year in the summer where it got into, the 90s, over 100 heat index for multiple days in a row. I would just sleep in this at night on my pad. Some people would just sleep with nothing on them. For some reason, I like to have something on me, but it was super light. It was just like a sheet. And my buddy Solar used an actual sheet, which is cool. But this is all done up for you. You can kind of get in it and out of it. It's almost like a really, really thin sleeping bag. So I found it very dual purpose, and it was very inexpensive too. Next up in the sleep system is my trusty Thermarest pad. I have had this pad. I honestly don't know what model it is at this point. I've had this pad over 10 years now. This thing has over 4,000 miles of hiking on it. I have patched it one time. I would have bet the farm that this was not going to make it the whole length of the AT, but it did, and I was very happy about it. The sleeping bag, again, if you're worried about weight, which we all were on the trail, the sleeping bag was 18 ounces. The liner was 5.7, and my pad was 19 ounces. But again, it's a big bag, so if 19 ounces sounds a little heavy to you, it's 7 feet long. And again, I'm almost 6'3", so I don't want to be hanging out over the edge, and 26 inches wide. And when it's blown up, it's a good, I'd say 3 inches, 2.5 to 3 inches thick. So it was very comfortable. I loved sleeping on it, actually. And just the fact that it lived, I have to give out Thermarest to, give them a shout out just for making the whole trail. And then I'm going to also add in the sleep system my FlexTail pump. I don't know about you, but after hiking like 18 or 20 miles, I get to camp, and blowing that 7-foot long sleeping pad by over 2 feet wide takes a lot of energy. And I use this pump. This is one of the original. It might be like the 2.0 version. There's a bunch, but this is the FlexTail gear, tiny pump. It's one of the older models. It charges by USB. One charge could last me a week. Last year, I slow boated the 100-mile wilderness. I took this just to see. I only charged it one time, and it lasted me an entire week. So it's very good. It also doubles as a light. There were some nights, especially when we got into late August, September, when the days weren't as long, I would hang it in my tent, and that's the pump. If you hold it in, it's a light, and it's got different levels of bright light, and it was awesome having that in the tent with me. Obviously, the more you use the light, the more it's going to burn your battery, but using the pump just alone, it also comes with a bunch of different attachments, so chances are you'll be able to find one that will blow up your bag for you. But again, it's 3.4 ounces. Another thing to charge, but I thought it was totally worth it. Speaking of keeping things charged, I absolutely love this power pack. It is a BioLite power pack. That's BIOLITE. It's an 80K. I started with 2 10s, and I was always worrying about my phone dying, or my Garmin, or my pump, things like that. So I ditched both of those. Both of those together weighed about a pound. So I got this. This is 17 ounces. Again, it feels a little heavy, but for 17 ounces, I never had to worry about any of my electronics dying. I think I was able to go 10 or 11 days without ever having to charge this and any of my devices dying. So really like it. I got it at REI, and I would just keep an eye out for deals. I ended up getting this for less than I bought the 20K for. So I ended up sending the 20K back, bought the 80K here on sale, and again got this one, and because it was cheaper. But again, it's BioLite, BIOLITE. All of these products, except maybe the Thermarest, because it's so ancient, I'm going to put links. I'm not getting any money or anything for endorsement money for any of this stuff. This is just stuff I used and loved. So I'll put links to the products in the body of this video. But that is the power pack I used, and I will use this one forever. Loved it. Next up is my cooking system. I didn't end up using this as much as I thought I would the first half of the hike, but certainly the second half of the hike I did. It is the JetBoil heating cooking system for boiling water, and I just bought a inexpensive titanium spoon off of Amazon. I've had this now 3 or 4 years. As long as I don't lose it, I will always just keep this one because it's not going to break. This comes in with the spoon and the cook system. And the cook system is really neat because you can put one of the fuels. This is one of the smaller fuels that you can pick up. Everything fits right in here, which I really like. And it comes in at 1 pound, 4 ounces. I could have probably saved maybe half a pound if I'd gone with some of the easier setups to cook. The one thing I like about this is when you get it all set up, it really saves fuel because it has a wind blocker. I'm not going to set the whole thing up and fire it up here for you, but just to give you an idea, basically sits on like this. You put that and it boils water super, super fast. I can maybe push 18 ounces, but I usually wouldn't want to do more than 16 ounces in this one here. Again, this is another product I've had about 8, 9, 10 years, and it's never let me down. And I just like the idea of being able to put all your stuff right in one place. Also, this fuel, the small ones, I think I would always get between 10, 12. I think once I got 13 boils out of it, so you don't have to carry an extra fuel. You can put just everything right in this one container. Makes it easy to find everything and keep my spoon nearby. So these are not cheap. I actually looked at maybe upgrading to another company or even maybe a better JetBoil, but again, all you need to do is boil water, and I like it. And again, it was 1 pound, 4 ounces, and it was easy to store. That's my cook system. For my poles, I used the Black Diamond. I don't think you can go wrong with about any of the brands. I saw a lot of Black Diamonds and other ones on the trail. This actually is all that's left of my 2 poles. I kept it as a memento. The trail is pretty brutal on hiking poles, and the fact that these even lasted. These were the same poles that I took to Kilimanjaro on my hike over there, the 8 or 9 days I was over there hiking Kilimanjaro. I brought them also on the AT, so I got a lot of use out of this one set of Black Diamond poles. The only thing I'd mention on the poles were I would make sure, and I think most of them now have it, but just the clip adjustments, you can just unclip. The old school kind, you had to kind of turn to tighten and loosen, and I just found those didn't work as well, and I wasn't always real secure and confident that those were going to hold. I really like the clip ones a lot. Again, a lot of the things with the poles comes down to personal preference. Some people like the cork handles. I sweat a lot. If you sweat a lot, cork's probably not the best. It gets a little slimy, absorbs a lot of the moisture, so they smell. These handles right here, I'm guessing they do still smell a little bit because they're cloth, but the rubber's nice. You can wash it off, clean it. It doesn't absorb anything, and even when your hands get a little bit sweaty, they keep a good grip on them. So that's the deal with the poles. Lastly, I'm going to take a look at what I call head to toe. Starting from the head, I brought a ball cap, this one right here, actually the whole length of the AT. It was nice for sunny days and things like that. I did bring sunglasses, but I found just sweating and things most of the time, and you're in the green tunnel for a lot of the hike and the AT, so I found a ball cap worked good. I also brought just a inexpensive knit winter cap, North Face. It worked fine. I think the point is just bring a winter cap. I like putting it on at night sometimes if it was cold. Obviously, if it was windy and things like that, you definitely want to do it. As far as tops, I brought a couple of t-shirts. I did bring a mid-weight base layer, LL Bean brand, that was long sleeve, that I would wear some days in the morning, especially if it was chilly. I really like the icebreaker t-shirts. They're a little on the pricey side, but they're made out of 100% wool, super light. They dry really, really quick. So usually what I would do is I'd have one that I'd wear during the day and then have one to keep one clean and dry at night. And the one I wore the day before, by the time I get up in the morning, almost every night it'd be dry again, unless obviously it was out in the rain or something like that. I really like that. Shorts, I bought a really inexpensive, I think it was like $12 pair of Adidas. They weren't really swim trunks, but they did have a liner, which I liked. So I didn't have to wear underwear, which was something less to wash, but it did have a nice liner, super comfortable. I started out in pants a little bit. I bought Cool, K-U-H-L brand. Love those pants for hiking, but they were just too hot. And even if it rained and was cold, they would just get soaked and make me even more colder, it felt. And with the shorts, when I got in my tent, I could just dry my legs off. Socks, I used 4 pair of Darn Tough socks for the journey, and all 4 pair had holes in them by the end. But that's the awesome thing about the Darn Tough company. I washed them, put a request in, they gave me a return authorization, put all 4 of them clean in an envelope, sent them, and they sent me back a voucher for through email for 4 brand new pair. So you pay the shipping to them, which I think cost me $8 or $10, but it's free shipping back. And now, and I have a pair on now, I have 4 brand new Darn Tough socks. So I can't say enough about that company. And the socks, I love them. Not everybody does. Again, especially with your feet. And I'm going to talk about my shoes in a minute. A lot of that's personal preference, but I really like the Darn Tough socks. I did not get a single blister the entire length of the AT. So that says a lot for the socks. And also the shoes. So the shoes I use, they are over a year old now. They are the Lone Peak Ultra 7s. This is a brand new pair. I love them so much, I just had to buy another pair just to have. The 8s actually have been out for a while now. And I hate when they change the models. I wish they'd keep them at least a year or two. Give them a chance. I haven't worn these ones yet, but I did wear 5 pair. Little spoiler alert for my calculations video, but I went through 5 pair of these on the trail, and they don't last super long. If I had any critique about them at all, it would be that they, after around 400, maybe 450 miles, they kind of lose their charm, if you will. But I went through 5 pairs, love them, and probably be taking these out for a hike in a few days to start breaking them in. So the Lone Peak Ultra 7s, you know, I'm sure the 8s are good as well, but I need to stick with the ones that I know I like for now. But kudos to the Ultra Lone Peaks. Three other items that I wanted to mention that I used and I thought just worked great were this. First of all, this Senshi. This was my item that for 153 days I did not let get wet or try to get sweaty or anything of that nature. I loved it at night. It was super warm, super comfortable, has a hood. I just loved it. I actually ran into quite a few people on the trail who had this. I know one young lady had the top and the pants. I didn't even know they made the pants, but I bet those would have been super comfortable too. But I love the Senshi. I can't even remember how much it was. It wasn't like super cheap, but worth every single penny just for the warmth and comfort. Number 2, which you might have just seen in a picture when I was talking about my Lone Peaks, where I did get a pair. I had never used gaiters a lot, but the Ultras, for their trail runners, they make their own gaiters. So I got a pair of the Ultra gaiters and used them with my Lone Peak 7s and really loved them. By the end, they were beat up pretty bad and ended up having to go by the wayside, but that's something I'll definitely be getting another pair of. And lastly, rain coat. I didn't even use it a lot unless it really, really poured, but I used the Outdoor Research helium ultralight raincoat, and it works awesome as a windbreaker, and in light rain it kept me dry, but I really found it really, really useful. I can remember right off the top of my head like a couple of occasions. One, going up to Mount Washington, it was really windy and not super cold, but just putting that on, just that one thin light layer was just enough over my t-shirt to really help keep me warm. So those are some other products that I really, really liked. So if you add up all the things that I went through here, my pack, my tent, my sleep system, including the little pump, my power pack, and my cook system, the total weight was 11 pounds, 1 ounce, which I think that is pretty good. Obviously, that doesn't include the extra socks, the extra pair or two of socks and shirts and things like that, but I think that's a pretty decent base weight to start out with for all those things, for sure. So any questions, feel free to comment in the video. Again, all these links that I'm able to, I will put in the body, and I do want to mention that I don't receive any endorsement gifts or money or anything on these products. These products are just ones that I loved and really took care of me on the trail for the 2,200 mile journey that I was on. When I get the other videos ready, I will put out a post and let you know. Thank you, and I will see you all soon.